Absolutely.
Great. Well, we'll go ahead and dive on in here. So I imagine everybody received my email, and that explained why we're here. But the league has retained Downstream Strategies to produce a series of mini reports covering the pathways, way stations, and potential hurdles of sustainable development projects. So tonight's meeting serves really as a kickoff to a larger project where we'll introduce community members to our definition of sustainable development and talk about topics that we'll be covering through the coming series of reports and community meetings like this one. Just so everyone knows, we are recording this meeting tonight, so no cursing or anything like that. Just like to make everybody aware of that. So I'm Joey James, and I'm joined tonight by my colleague Brennan Williams. We're both from Downstream Strategies. So Downstream Strategies is an environmental and economic development consulting firm with experience working on really all aspects of sustainable development projects in Central Appalachia and the Mid-Atlantic. Tonight, our just very rough agenda is we're gonna dive into what sustainable development means. I'm sure as many of you on this meeting here know, there's a lot of different interpretations of what sustainable development is, and so we're going to tell you what we think it is and how we will be interpreting it through this project. We're going to talk specifically about the triple bottom line. I'm going to give just a very brief overview of a previous project that Downstream did with the League of Women Voters. And then we're going to dive in on the topics and ideas that we're going to be covering through this series of reports and webinars that we are calling Driving Sustainable Growth. And then we'll talk about what's next. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague here, Brennan Williams.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brennan Williams, and I just wanted to say I'm very excited to talk to everybody. It's nice to see everybody this afternoon to talk about sustainable development. So we appreciate it and hope that everybody learns a little bit tonight. But with that, I'll go ahead and get started on our first slide here. To start off with, so what is sustainable development? First, there are many definitions for sustainability. In fact, what it means to be sustainable is open to interpretation at best, and it gets even fuzzier when you substitute the term green. So since there is no single definition of sustainability, one issue is that anyone is free to use the term to describe whatever they want, regardless of whether it's truly sustainable. Therefore, starting off, one objective of this presentation is to help provide a framework for determining whether a project is truly sustainable. And so speaking broadly and shown on your screen here, sustainable development is a concept of social change where population and community can be maintained into the indefinite future without degrading first community institutions like a church or a school community. Second, the means of production like labor. Third, systems of infrastructure. Fourth, the resource base like a fishery or a forest. And fifth, natural and man-made environments. So if you want to go to the next slide. So since we are building resources to help communities navigate the elements of successful sustainable development and drive forward projects in our communities over the course of the next several months, it is important to have one common definition for sustainable development. So for this group, sustainable development will have the one definition will have means, and on your screen as well, the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So this definition comes from a book published by the United Nations in 1987 called Our Common Future, or commonly known as the Brundtland Commission. The commission is considered the first organized international attempt to address what was widely seen as an unsustainable course on which the world societies were on. Next slide, Joey. So now that we have a common definition, we'll need a common measuring stick to determine sustainable development. Sustainable development is often characterized by integrating the triple bottom line. The triple bottom line shown here on your screen provides a framework and is the common measuring stick to determine whether a project is truly sustainable across the board. So as you can see on your screen, the triple bottom line has three core components. First is the environmental, second is social, and third is economic. And if a project satisfies all three components, and it will likely continue to do so into the foreseeable future, then there's a pretty strong case the project is a sustainable one. So discussing each component, first and foremost, the project must sustain the environment. So one example of an environmentally sustainable project that is not always obvious is the conversion of the Heinz Company Complex to the Heinz Lofts. The Heinz Company Complex, for those who might not be familiar, it consists of 11 buildings built between 1907 and 1958. And then in the 2000s, the complex was converted into over 260 apartment units, and provided hundreds of covered parking spaces. The project has been a great example of what we call adaptive reuse, which is the process of converting buildings that have outlived their original purpose to accommodate new uses. And it is also an example of infill development, which is a development of new housing on vacant or underutilized land in previously developed areas. Next slide, Joey. So adaptive reuse and infill projects can provide substantial environmental benefits. For starters, existing buildings are inherently energy efficient because they do not require substantial new investments of energy to extract, process, or transport building materials. So the most energy efficient building is the existing building. Also, infill projects provide an opportunity to use land, infrastructure, and services more efficiently, since the land is converted to its highest and best use as residential units rather than seldom used industrial office uses. And secondly, the previously developed land is also reused rather than consuming additional green space, natural resources, and prevents sprawling urban development. Finally, since infill locations generally already have much of the needed infrastructure, like access to public sewer or water systems, as well as other utilities, streets, and other transportation facilities, infrastructure costs can be substantially lower for infill development relative to a similar project in an undeveloped area. Next slide, Joey. So another example of an environmentally sustainable project is the City of Lancaster's in Pennsylvania's Green Infrastructure Plan. We're gonna go to the next slide, Joey. The City of Lancaster has a combined sewer system, and a combined sewer system, if people aren't aware, is a sewer system that collects and transports both domestic sewage or wastewater from plumbing and buildings, and also rainwater that flows from downspouts, streets, sidewalks, parking lots, and other impervious surfaces, also known as stormwater. Most of the time, the combined sewer system operates fine, and this is not much of an issue. And a wastewater treatment facility can actually handle both the stormwater and domestic sewage. However, during large storm events, and we all know that this happens more often, we're seeing more large storm events, the combined sewer system is overwhelmed and cannot handle all the additional water. So consequently, the untreated wastewater actually backs up and overflows into the river, reducing water quality. So To combat this contamination and water quality issue, the city of Lancaster has been working to reduce combined sewer system overflows and to identify economically viable long-term strategies for mitigating the negative impacts of overflows on water quality. Largely, the city's mitigation strategies came in the form of additional gray infrastructure, like storage tanks and increasing the capacity of the treatment facility. As you can imagine, though, that these upgrades are very expensive. So the city of Lancaster called an audible and employed green infrastructure methods to find a cost-effective solution. So now understanding the issue in Lancaster, what is green infrastructure? The Water Infrastructure Improvement Act passed by Congress defines green infrastructure as, quote, the range of measures that use plant or soil systems, permeable pavement or other permeable surfaces or substrates, stormwater harvest and reuse, or landscaping to store, infiltrate, or evapotranspirate stormwater reduced flows to sewer systems or surface waters. So compared to gray infrastructure, green infrastructure provides many benefits. First, green infrastructure approach often has a higher return on investment, which is good in Lancaster's eyes. And it also offers many other benefits like decreasing impervious surfaces that increase the need for stormwater conveyance systems. It also allows to recharge the groundwater. It allows for the easing of the burden on existing infrastructure at a lower cost. And in my opinion, you can see in the picture on your screen, is that it can quite often look a lot prettier than just standard sidewalk and impervious surfaces. Joey, thank you. Next, moving on to the second component of the triple bottom line is social sustainability. In a socially equitable society, everyone has a reasonable access to things that are generally considered conducive to a good quality of life, or put in another way, that's socially equitable in a sustainable development context. This could also mean environmental justice. So according to the EPA, environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. Environmental justice also includes the citing of locally unwanted land uses, many of which are such as our hazardous waste incinerators, hazardous waste storage and disposal facilities, solid waste landfills, sewage treatment facilities, power plants and refineries, involve increased exposure to pollutants or increased risk of exposure to pollutants. And also other land uses such as landfills, recycling facilities, and warehouses may damage the physical environment of a neighborhood and contribute to the decline of the community's sense of place. Next slide, Jenny, please. So one example of a social sustainability and environmental justice issue is Cancer Alley. Cancer Alley is an 85-mile stretch on the Mississippi River in Louisiana that has more than 150 petrochemical plants and refineries. In 2012, this area alone accounted for 25% of the petrochemical production in the United States. And as you can see on the screen, many people live within proximity of the refineries and can be seen from their backyards. Because of the siting and concentration of the plants and refineries in combination with substantially higher cancer rates, the answer received its infamous moniker, Cancer Alley. Next slide, Jerry. So Cancer Alley is a classic example of an environmental issue. However, what makes this an environmental justice and social sustainability issue is the fact that people of color and low-income individuals are disproportionately affected and have higher cancer rates. In fact, according to a study conducted in 2012, individuals located in predominantly Black areas are 16% more at risk of developing cancer, and also individuals living on low-income tracts in the area are 12% more at risk of developing cancer. Slide, Jimmy. So finally, the third component of the triple bottom line is economic sustainability. In a sustainability context, the economic bottom line does not simply refer to having money or making money, but rather the concept is twofold. First, it is engaging in actions that are economically sustainable or having enough money to start and sustain your project. And second is having enough money to provide and maintain a reasonably high quality of life over long term. So one example to illustrate the economic component of the triple bottom line is renewable energy jobs like solar photovoltaic installers and wind turbine service technicians. There are numerous reports to show that renewable energy jobs provide stable work that's economically sustainable as the industry continues to grow. And additionally, the jobs are high paying that can provide a reasonably high quality of life over the long term. So with that, going over the sustainable development, is there any questions at this point? Not seeing any more. So thank y'all. I appreciate y'all listening to my presentation on sustainable development, and we are looking forward to working with you guys in the future on this project. But with that, I will turn it over to Joey.
Great, thanks, Brennan, for that. So the National Council of Nonprofits defines capacity building as an investment in the effectiveness and future sustainability of an individual or organization. Capacity building is the improvement of an individual or organization's facility to produce, perform, or deploy. So historically, our region has experienced a dearth of capacity building investments, leaving community organizations like the ones you represent overly reliant on expensive consultants, or even worse, stagnating projects for years on end. And this is one of the biggest hurdles to sustainable development in our region. So in 2017, the League of Women Voters and Downstream Strategies worked with Reimagine Groups to produce I'm sorry, it was not 2017, it was 2020. Yeah, 2020. To produce a guide and toolkit for estimating the economic benefits of sustainable development ideas. We saw this as one of the capacity gaps that a lot of organizations have. So we produced a report that discusses the economic impact assessments as a powerful tool and strategy for project support, tries to demystify economic impact assessments, and provides some simple steps for straightforward economic impact assessments that everyday individuals can use. So this is a great example of capacity building. However, as you might guess, there's a lot more to advancing sustainable development topics than just estimating the economic impacts. And so that is the foundation of the project that we're here kicking off tonight. Again, we're calling this Driving Forward Sustainable Growth. And I'm really happy to be kicking off this project. We'll be producing new reports, guides, and tools aimed at supporting capacity necessary to drive forward sustainable development projects in each of your communities. We will be producing a series of reports that cover the pathways, way stations, and potential hurdles of sustainable development. And so we're planning on producing one report a quarter and then hosting one webinar or a training session per quarter that discusses that report and has local and national speakers that are qualified to speak on the topics that we're covering. So
yeah, I would say it's a training session because it's going to have activities. So it's not just a webinar. We'll be able to interact with each other.
Yeah, training session. That's a good way to put it. So the four primary, I guess, topics that we're going to be covering through this series is pre-development planning, project financing, navigating bureaucracy, and managing construction. So let's talk a little bit about what we can expect for each of those topics. So pre-development planning encompasses the studies and other work necessary to begin project implementation. So this is where a lot of projects die. This is where they die first, I'll say. So this includes things like phased planning documents, environmental assessments, economic impact and market analyses, business planning, communication plans, basically all of the legwork that needs to be done in order to advance the sustainable development ideas that we have before we go and get funding for them. So we're really excited to be working on a report again that covers the hurdles, way stations, and tools and pathways for completing the work necessary in that pre-development planning stage. Right now, we have 2 national guest speakers planned. Candace Hamana, who is the founder of the Indigenous Peoples Public Relations Association, has immense experience working with community groups that are advancing sustainable development ideas in the Navajo and Hopi tribes. And Queen Zakia Shabazz, who's the coordinator of the Virginia Environmental Justice Collaborative. Both of these speakers bring immense experience. We have confirmed that Candace is going to be joining us whenever we nail down a date. Still waiting on confirmation from Queen Shabazz, but we're looking forward to having both of them. We also would like to feature some local guest speakers. So if there's anybody from your organizations or within your communities that you think has a lot of experience or a lot to say about the pre-development planning phase of a project, we want to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to Heather and I. We are still nailing down all of our local speakers. We've got some ideas, but again, we want to hear your ideas. So the second report and webinar is going to cover project financing. So this is where if you make it through the pre-development planning side of things, this is now where projects die. They die fast here. So project financing is really the long-term financing of projects based on projected cash flows over time. So these projected cash flows can be, from all different types of sources: grant funding, private capital, capital that you're making from a business venture that is actually generating money. So this particular report is going to cover topics like funding strategy development, grant writing, impact investment. As you might know, we are right now amidst some of the largest impact investment initiatives in history. So we want to dive into what is impact investing and how you talk to firms that are interested in that type of thing. Private conventional finance, tax credits, opportunity zones. We want to cover them all. So again, we have a national guest speaker plan. So Hannah Vargason, who's the Associate Director of Strategic Initiatives at Partner Community Capital. So Partner Community Capital is a organization based in West Virginia, but working all across our region. And Hannah works every day with people from all walks of life that are advancing sustainable development ideas and helps them put together basically financial packages to accomplish their goals. Also, you might know that the Economic Development Administration is administering an unprecedented amount of grants to communities that are impacted by the decline of industries like the coal industry and other critical industries in the U.S. So we're going to bring somebody from the Economic Development Administration to talk about how they can assist with project financing, either through loans or grants, and so on. And again, we want to have local guest speakers. So if there's somebody within your community or that you think is knowledgeable on project financing or has something interesting to say about project financing, we want to have them and we want to feature their knowledge so that other folks can build the capacity of their organizations using that knowledge. So the third report and training session is going to be about navigating bureaucracy. So government and businesses have particular systems of operation, and understanding how to efficiently navigate these complex systems is critical to advancing sustainable development ideas. And so in this report and training session, we'll cover topics like planning and zoning laws, how to navigate those or design them in ways that would promote sustainable development. State agencies, relevant state agencies. So we want to talk about the people that work within DEP, for example, that you need to know or should know if you're working on certain topics. Federal agencies, same thing, and of course elected and non-elected officials, decision makers that can help advance your projects. So our national guest speakers for this particular report and training is Tony Skralunas, who is the CEO of Tribe Awaken. Tribe Awaken is a renewable energy company that's based in the Navajo Nation. But Tony is the former director of economic development for the Navajo Nation, and has a lot to say about how he has, through his career, navigated the ins and outs of state agencies and other organizations. And then Jason Keuchel, who's the director of regulatory research for Cannabis Media. So he does research related to how the marijuana and hemp industries are regulated locally and statewide in different geographies. And he certainly has a lot of knowledge about how quickly things can change, and has a really interesting perspective on navigating bureaucracy. And similarly, we're looking for local guest speakers. So if there's somebody that knows the ins and outs of state government, for example, better than anyone else, that's the type of person that we want to have featured in this series. And then the final report and training session that we'll be covering is managing construction and non-construction projects. So, additional complications can arise during project implementation, particularly with construction-related projects, but also with non-construction related projects. And understanding how to adapt and pivot when it's necessary is absolutely critical to seeing projects through and reaching that finish line. So we're going to cover topics like competitive bidding documents, how you have to bid out certain types of projects, contracting. So how do you engage with consultants that are knowledgeable of certain things related to your project, and establish contracts with them. Communicating with the media while a project is being implemented. Change orders to a project. So something unexpected happens, you need to, change your original plan, how you go about doing that, how you go about communicating that back to, your stakeholders and members of your community. And then, oops, we need more money, which is a big one. So a lot of times when projects are financed and a funding strategy is developed, things change and more money is needed while the project's already getting started. So we'll talk about how to overcome the challenge of attracting funding to a project that has already received funding to accomplish something that you so far have been unsuccessful with. Our national guest speaker, and in this case, it's actually an international guest speaker, Joseph Klatt. He's the CEO of an organization called Precious Plastic, Precious Plastic is a really interesting global organization that you might look up after this call, that they set up basically module recycling facilities all around the world. So they go into parts of the world that do not have adequate recycling infrastructure, and they work to establish it in a way that creates economic opportunity for the people there, and of course cleans up the environment. And then similarly, if there's somebody local that you know of that is particularly good at managing projects, managing construction and non-construction projects, we want to hear from them. So what's next? We want to hammer down some dates for our training series. And right now, here's our tentative schedule. We are looking at doing the pre-development planning session on Friday, April 29th. And so that's the session where we will unveil the report and bring in the guest speakers and talk about pre-development planning. Thursday, June 30th, we are looking at the project financing training session. Friday, September 30th, we'll be navigating bureaucracy together. And then Wednesday, November 30th, we will be managing construction. So again, these are tentative dates, subject to change if things come up. All of our series will be recorded so that if you miss a session, you can fill yourself in your spare time. And we will also be providing the reports and toolkits that we're creating via web links, so you'll be able to access those resources. We will be following up this meeting with a short survey. We want to gauge people's knowledge of sustainable development, your knowledge and interests on sustainable development in the topics that we're going to be exploring in these different reports and webinars, and get your ideas about guest speakers. But we also want to know what times generally work for you and for other members of your community organizations that couldn't be here. So again, we'll be following up with that survey and a link to a recording of this session, hopefully by tomorrow afternoon. And with that, we are happy to answer any questions about Brennan's presentation or the general project idea and the resources that I kind of previewed for you there. And Heather, if you have any Any further comments?
Well, this is great. So these are the topics that we requested, and the speakers sound very interesting, the ones that you have recommended and been able to confirm. And so we really want people to participate in this. You know, if you miss a session, you can get it by from the recording of the session, but we want people to come and participate in person. And so we're going to send out a survey to find out when you're available. There's a question from Joanne, I saw. Joanne?
Yep, I'm here. So you're going to send the survey. That answers my question. I'll, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we're open to any time. Basically, we're going to send that survey out, and if we find that an overwhelming majority of people say afternoons are better than evenings, we will probably host the sessions in the afternoon instead of evenings.
Great, thanks.
Okay, we have a question from Annie Deely.
Yeah, so right now, these are planned as virtual events.
Yeah, I mean, the original conception was to do 2 in person and two virtual, but that was before the COVID got worse, and so right now they're all being shown as virtual. If things get really good, maybe we'll bring everybody together for the last one outside or something.
Joanne, did you have another question?
I do. So you said you wanted this to be participative, and Reimagine Beaver is actually working on a project. So does that mean that, if I've got some specific examples or questions related to my project, then I could bring those in for discussion and, hashing out, or just as an example for us all to learn from, especially me.
Definitely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'll try to prepare that myself, for each of the topics.
Yeah, and feel free, I guess, if you have any question on how to approach that, feel free to reach out, and we can cover it ahead of time, or I'm available.
Great. Thanks. That's helpful.
So can we get some reaction to what people heard tonight? So Judy, do you want to talk?
Sure. Yeah, I'm an architect, and I actually am an architect and developer, and I'm working on a new project, new build here in Altoona. And I thought the last question was really good. Is can we bring in like our case studies to kind of brainstorm with you guys? Because I'm an architect, and I did a project with the Community Foundation for the Alleghenies. They helped me with funding on sustainability aspects of it. And so I'm working on a new project, and I'm just wondering, anyway, I have different ideas about the financing, which means different parties would be pulled into the project, and it would just be helpful to get, your best practices on things. So that's all. Absolutely.
Well, I think that it is very appropriate in that, and in hearing this I guess level of interest, we will definitely make time within our training sessions to have conversations exactly like this, just a knowledge share. And we plan on, I think, doing that through, I think it really depends on how many people show up to each session. But originally we're envisioning right now that we would have breakout sessions, and that's where those conversations would happen. But Judy, I'll also say, again, like I said to Joanne, feel free to reach out to me ahead of time, and I might be able to help, you know, advance your project, or at least move the ball down the field a little bit.
Okay, that sounds great.
And I think it should be a mix. It shouldn't just be canned presentation or presentations in the that the live format. There should be audience interaction like there is now, and also, you know, have the breakout sessions.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Alyssa wants to know, was there discussion of all the Reimagine groups collaborating on one project? We have not had that discussion yet. That might be something that we talk about once everybody's familiar with the different projects. So we should build in time for each group to present their one or more projects.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, again, identifying those common themes across projects, there's a lot of grant funding available right now to help advance regional initiatives. So if you identify a common theme, you know, hey, you might have an idea for a grant proposal to the Economic Development Administration, for example. Well, with that, I appreciate the everyone's time this evening and the conversation that we've had.
Yeah, we have some comments here, but I can't. I'm not okay. We have a comment. I was trying to read all the comments.
So Judy, another topic for future consideration is creating local energy co-ops, like the Blair County Wind Farm, for example, that would benefit local residents. Absolutely. And that's definitely a very relevant topic for Pennsylvania right now.
Yeah, somebody wrote, the projects I'm involved with have both sustainable development focus linked to educational programs, workforce development, and social services needed to support those goals. Help in these areas is urgent. And I don't know what the top of this message says. Here it goes. Chris Leininger. This is great information and absolutely the proper focus for economic development based on community revitalization. I too am involved with some interesting local projects, but each group needs capacity building and professional help as well as funding. The projects I am involved in have both sustainable, and then I can't get it to click on the rest of it. Chris, if you're here. Do you want to finish your?
Sustainable development focus linked to educational programs, workforce development, and social services needed to support these goals. Help in these areas is urgent need right now. Indeed, Chris.
So Joey, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so those are definitely components of
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can now.
I'm sorry, my microphone was not working. I apologize. My name is Chris Leininger, and I could add a couple of comments to what I wrote if it would be helpful.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
I just recently started teaching at the Community College of Beaver County in the Mascaro Construction Management and Technology program. And we're a brand new program that's looking to build workforce capacity And ironically, just this semester, I'm teaching a green building and sustainable design course for the first time. And we're going through a lead green building assessment for a project in Beaver County up in Beaver Falls that is owned by Standing in the Gap Ministries. And they're working in conjunction with Tiger Paws up there, for any of you who might be familiar with those groups. Standing in the Gap Ministries is working on helping individuals who have been caught up in human trafficking and trying to help those people get back into society and get stabilized. And they purchased the old Rite Aid pharmacy building up in Beaver Falls. This building has over 13,000 square feet per floor level on 3 different levels. It was the old Beaver County Job Center back in the 1990s, and before Rite Aid took it over. And we've been working with them to try to go through, as a class, just academically, to go through a green building assessment to come up with the very strategies that your training sessions are going to focus on. So the timing is really perfect. But the biggest limitation is capacity building for these organizations to be able to really pull together their needs into a sustainable way that is beneficial for the community within a reasonable time frame. And so the approach they take tends to be piecemeal, where they just, for instance, I heard about this project because my wife works for the community development program of Beaver County. And so they were looking for HUD money to buy photovoltaic panels to put on the roof to pay for heating the building. Well, you really don't use electricity to heat buildings as the primary source. And so they're kind of looking at it a piecemeal, we just need this need covered, just need this need covered. So this idea of working with partnerships to develop a professional plan that helps them land the funding they need to do the project the right way. And maybe the project Joanne was talking about has similar challenges, but there's a real need for people to not just work individually in isolated silos, but to partner and to bundle and to synergize projects and goals and visions and missions together to be able to, I guess, have to really build that capacity and make these projects successful. So I'd love to be able to participate and share this project idea. And I'm going to explain it to the nonprofits I'm working with, and maybe they'll be able to show up because the timing is really perfect. And I think the topic is really great. So thank you very much for letting me say something about those projects.
That's great. And we need people involved from Butler County. So
yeah, I also teach at Slippery Rock, so there might be some way to spread the word there as well.
Right. So were you in Beaver County and Butler?
I live in Beaver County, and I'm a tenured faculty up in Slippery Rock University, but I'm only part-time there. So I'm also teaching at Community College of Beaver County part-time here in Center Township.
Yeah, Chris, and I'll add, the topics that we're covering are going to be definitely relevant to what you're doing, but I think some of the speakers that we're going to be bringing in are also going to be really helpful to providing direction for exactly where you're at. You just going through that project, I thought, I need to hook you up with somebody from the Just Transition Fund, because that's a foundation that we'll discuss in the project financing part of this, but it's a foundation that is keenly interested in providing catalytic support to organizations that are organizations or collaboratives that are exactly in the position that you're in right now, to get you basically to the next stage. So I'm excited to hear more about your project. Also excited to be able to make those connections through this process.
That sounds great.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Thank you, Heather. I'm glad all of you are doing what you do. It's really critically important and such a challenge.
I think maybe you can help us reimagine Butler County.
Maybe. I'm only up there part-time, but the university is actually talking about developing a center for the environment. They just had a meeting last week with about 50 people. So there might, again, be some synergies there to help connect things together.
Great. So Alyssa Beck has said she'd like to have a maybe you can, okay, I'd love to see a cross-county, Southwest PA food forest project initiated. So you have one as part of the Reimagine Fayette County, I think, is doing that. So, and they want to collaborate with other people.
You know, Heather, there's a forest food area up at McCoskey Center at Slippery Rock University where they are doing some food forestry kind of projects. And so that's a demonstration site that is set up for workshops and hands-on applications. So some training around that idea could possibly be done there.
Yeah, Chris, so if you want to email me, then I'll connect you up with Alyssa and Tammy.
Sure, and I could carbon copy the manager up at the McCoskey Center. They've just, in the last year and a half during the COVID period, they've got a new full-time director there.
Oh, great.
So I can add her name to the email.
Yeah, who was the director before?
Thomas Reynolds had been there for 10 years. And then there was a transition when Fran Byers came in. Fran had been director of the McKeever Environmental Education Center. And so he was kind of covering both facilities. And then he retired. And so this new director is a graduate from our graduate program, environmental ed program. And her name is Sammy Lawrence. I believe she lives in Grove City as well. So she might be a person to get involved with Reimagine Butler if you're looking for some new ideas and connections.
Right, that sounds great.
And they've got 80 acres at Slippery Rock on campus. It's a tremendous site.
Write to me or have her contact me.
I will do so.
Great. Yeah, Chris, you were a moderator for one of our first session in Butler County, which was with the students who go to the McCoskey Center.
And it was actually held there. Yeah, it was a really good evening.
So let's see. Other questions? People want to connect? Joey, do we have time to like briefly just have everybody say, you know, their name and who they're with?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so people can't go into long paragraphs, but so I'm going to start at the bottom where I am right now. And Alyssa, it's a very short, like a minute, you know, because you do so many things, but just for time's sake, to introduce yourself, and we'll just go around the room, as it were.
Hi, my name is Alyssa, and I'm with Reimagine Turtle Creek, and there's 5 different working groups there, most active with the podcast. If anybody's interested in being interviewed for the Journey Through Health and Wellness podcast, just reach out to us, and we'd love that. And it's great that so many are here.
Great. And Judy?
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. You are. Well, go ahead, talk. Yeah.
Yeah. My name is Judy Coots. I'm an architect turned developer, and I actually just retired from my architectural practice at the end of last year. And so now I'm doing real estate development, which I adore. And I did one, like I said, I did one project, which was a renovation here in Altoona. And I liked it so much that I want to do a second one, but this one I want to do a new build with offsite construction, and then bring it into town. But I wanted to have a sustainable solar panels is what I'm looking at. And if I could build it out of hemp blocks, I would. I'm like so excited about that product, but I don't think we can get it in America yet. But I thought, well, let me do this modular build, and then my next project will be a little hemp community. So that's what I'm doing. And so I'm a private developer, you know.
Great. So yeah, the Fayette County might ask you for some advice about, they're building an eco community.
Yeah.
Let's see. In fact, I have a different arrangement of people now on the screen, and I'm gonna ask, oh, great. Tammy from Reimagine, Tammy Gingro from Reimagine Fayette County.
Hi, everybody. This has been delightful. Thank you so much. Yes, we've just launched Reimagine Fayette County in July, and we are slowly growing, but our big dreams are to build an eco community, which has at its center a holistic integrative wellness and retreat center. So we really need I visualize by the planning meeting having some plans ready and to be able to take those further. And the progression seems really good to help us along. Also, of course, that community would act as a education center, integration center for people in later stages of recovery and domestic violence and things like that. And also, of course, the food forests and cooperative store. So I would love to have more opportunities to collaborate with all the Reimagine groups.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, I'm gonna have Etta talk for a minute.
Hi, yes, I'm from Cambria County, and the name of the project that I was working with was Reimagine Cambria and Blair Counties, Visioning Sustainable Communities, underscored by public health, well-being, and safety. And the emphasis is on taking a holistic view at the health of individuals, where they live, and looking at unmet needs, and then connecting the dots to the resources that are there and trying to bring people to recognize those needs and then work together as community to meet them.
Thanks, Etta. Let's have Joanne go now.
Hi, everybody. I am the co-founder of Reimagine Beaver County, and we are actually our big dream, and we're actually, we have taken some very concrete steps in the last few months, and I would say we're in the pre-development, maybe pre-larval pre-development phase, but we've been working on a planning grant to build an eco-industrial park, and we want to center it around some sort of biomaterials. So we're at the stage of looking for a planning grant, and we don't have the money yet, but we've got some almost partners. So I mean, this is great timing for us, and I want to learn from everybody else too, and maybe meet some new partners to work with.
Great. Let's see, let's have Annie, the coordinator for Tick Block, the community organizer.
You took my intro, Heather. Yeah, I'm Annie. Sorry if I'm crying, I'm chopping onions. But I use she, her, and like Heather said, I am the community organizer for Reimagine Turtle Creek Watershed and Airshed Communities Plus, which is a mouthful, but I'm excited to be here and collaborate with other Reimagine groups and people doing similar things. I appreciate that we're doing an round of intros because I wanted to know who everyone was.
Thanks, Annie. Let's have, is that Kathy there from the League of Women Voters?
Yes.
Yes, Kathy Cook, who's on our board, the LWVPA Board of Directors, and she's the Director of Environment.
Correct. And I'm really in the very basic beginning discussion period with two groups for new Reimagine projects in the eastern part of the state.
Great, thanks. And I'm so glad you're participating in this. It's really good.
Thank you.
Let's see, how about Susan Bozer from Indiana? County, right?
Yeah, thanks very much, Heather. I am Indiana County. I've been active with the Indiana County Sustainable Economic Development Task Force for, gosh, I think 3 or 4 years. And I also am with the government policy and social policy committees for the league at the state. I'm on the league here locally, and I teach at IUP. Sustainable economic development is one of the areas that I teach in. So it's something that's been of keen interest for me for a long time. My particular area of interest related to economic development is rural broadband and expanding capacities for broadband as a mechanism for economic development in rural areas.
Great, thanks. Yes, and Susan also has run for elected office.
I have done that, yes.
Let's see. So, let's see, who next? How about John Frederick?
Yes. I'm the Environmental and Recreation Director for Andis Township, which is just north of Altoona. And I'd like to think we're trying to reimagine this part of Blair County. Environmental and sustainable behavior has not always been a hot topic here, but I'd like to think that attitudes are changing. And I happen to think our municipality is one of the change agents and all of that. Among other things, we're trying to finish some additions to our trail network, which we believe will do things to not just revitalize and bring some different kinds of life and sustainable behavior and so forth to Andis Township, but also to Bellwood Borough. And so that's why I joined tonight, and we're excited about making something happen.
Great. How about, let's see, who is Z?
Hi, I'm Mazan Ali, go by Z. I help out with Grow Ohio Valley's Edible Mountain Project, which is intended to provide opportunities to the residents of the urban core in Wheeling, and hopefully grow a food forest just on the outskirts of the town.
Great. Will you email me with your interest about the food forest, and I can connect you up with Tammy and Chris and Tammy and somebody else from Butler County and Alyssa. So email me.
Yeah, definitely.
It's my address is on the invitation you got.
Okay, sounds good.
Great. How about Adrian?
There we go. Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Thanks, Heather. Hi, everybody. I'm Adrian Smochek from Indiana County as well. And I guess I'm here in a couple of different capacities. Professionally, I am the district manager for State Representative Jim Struzzi in the southern part of Indiana County. And through that role, I've participated, although somewhat maybe passively, in the Indiana County Sustainable Economic Development Task Force. So haven't contributed nearly as much as some of the others that are on the call this evening, but I do have a number of other roles that generate my personal interest in the work that you all are doing. I am on the board for our Evergreen Conservancy, the land trust entity in Indiana County. I'm on the board for our Indiana County Parks and Trails and the CNI Trail Council that stewards one of the larger rail trails that is a go-between between Indiana County and Cambria County, and also chair the Friends of the Indiana County Conservation District, a newly formed nonprofit organization to support our conservation district efforts. So through that whole ball of wax, I'm involved in a number of different projects, but I'm really personally very passionate about water quality improvements and the acid mine, the legacy mining impacts in our county, and have been pushing as much as possible to try to get things moving here in Indiana County to see the benefits, I guess, for the economic impact and just recreation and conservation in general, and the economic impact they stand to have in our region, and really just overall public health and all of the benefits that come along with some of those projects. So we have a few in the pipeline right now that we're working on that are AMD, acid mine, impact treatments, and construction of some rail trail projects. So there's a lot going on here, and the conservation district's efforts are just, there's a lot happening there with agricultural sustainability too. So really, I'm just here to kind of take it all in for my professional perspective, but also to see what I can take back to some of the groups that I'm affiliated with. So thank you all.
Great, and we're so glad you're here. How about Mark Dixon?
Hey, I'm Mark Dixon. I'm a filmmaker and kind of tech handy guy. I've been filming and photographing nearly all of the Reimagine efforts over the years, thanks to Heather bringing me along a lot of the time. And I've been a big sort of a super fan and follower and advocate for environmental issues for a number of years, and making a film about about air quality in the region, and also been working on a lot of low-cost monitor deployment, especially mostly recently around Shell, in anticipation of its startup. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. I'm so glad you're here. And Father Michael.
Yeah, well, I'm a foreigner from across the river in Ohio, so, but I still look up. You all are doing wonderful things. Keep at it. My life down here across from Wheeling on the Ohio side has been much involved with the fact that we are fracking center for Ohio, and they want to put another cracking plant right in my backyard here, similar to the big Shell one you've got up in Beaver. So the idea of, yeah, let's reimagine something other than how to extract wealth and dump more poison sounds like a great idea. My own personal perspective on things tends to be, though, we need to figure out ways to slow down and degrow. Everything else about sustainable growth, and go for it, you know, and people can understand it. But ultimately, maybe we need to degrow a lot of the expectations that we have. In any case, seriously reimagine things. Oh, and yes, I happen to actually be a monk, and this will be the last time anybody will see me, because in 2 weeks I retire to the forest and disappear. But I'll be praying for you anyway. Go for it.
Well, maybe we'll go walking through that forest sometime.
Oh, lots of forests are coming along. We just planted 10 acres of Chinese chestnuts, which when they come to maturity will be food falling out of heaven. You know, one reimagine is, could we like not depend completely on annual grains and soybeans? Yeah, that's one bit of reimagining that I'm doing. Encouraging perennial food.
Great. So, anybody have any other comments or questions? Any questions? And of course, we have Joey and Brennan. I don't know if you want to just say a couple words about yourselves and your backgrounds quickly. I don't think we did that.
No, we didn't. Yeah, so Joey James, I am principal here at Downstream Strategies. I worked on a very wide variety of sustainable development issues across the region. Started my career doing basically source water protection type work, and that turned into some work in renewable energy, which turned into some work identifying ways to repurpose brownfields and other types of or mine sites and other types of brownfields And now I'm working very broadly on the types of topics that we're going to be covering in this series. So excited to share my knowledge and hopefully some connections with you all. And I'm really, really pleased at the enthusiastic conversation that we're having tonight.
And Brennan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, thank you. So I am the newest member to Downstream Strategies. I am a community and economic development planner, and I am coming up from, or spent the past 7 years in municipal government in upstate South Carolina, and was a practicing attorney for short term before that. So happy to get connected with everybody and see everybody and see and hear the wonderful work that everyone's doing. So this has been great. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're and seem like a great addition to an excellent practice of Joey's Downstream Strategies group.
Thank you.
And we're so glad that Joey is on this project. We did a wonderful advancing budding projects together, and this is going to be, we had like one or two presentations per group, but now we're bringing all the groups together. So, but everybody will get involved. All right, so any other questions or anything for tonight? Or Joe, do you want to finish up? Or?
Yeah, we appreciate everyone's time tonight. And it's great to see people connecting in the chat. I guess look for an email from us following up with the recording of tonight's session, plus that survey that I had referenced. Again, we're just trying to get an understanding of where everyone is in their sustainable development journey, and also get an idea of what days and times generally work for you. So with that, thank you everybody, and have a great evening.
Thank you, Joey.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
And thanks
Thank you.
everyone for coming tonight.